Up next, creating blueprints for building trust on AI.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Kelley Fenelon, Managing Director at Corporate Impact Lab, where we work with executive leaders to build bold strategies, create peer-based community to drive those strategies forward, ultimately create organizations where people and business thrive. We implement our offerings that we call strategy accelerators with teams, through networks, and through our ongoing fellowship program. Today, we're going to get to hear from two of the fellows in our Workforce Wellbeing and AI Executive Fellowship. Jonathan Marek, Chief Operations Officer at Guild, who's here with us in person, as you heard, as well as Kenneth, who's the Director of Retirement Financial Programs at Warner Brothers Discovery. He'll be joining us via recorded video, having dealt with the family emergency. Also joining us is Sarah Kalloch, the founding Executive Director of Good Jobs Institute, who now runs her own advisory firm. She's an impact partner with the Corporate Impact Lab, which means that she really walks alongside our fellows and our members as a subject matter expert and an implementation partner. Today's panel is really oriented around an animating question that drives our current fellowship. How do we keep the human experience of work central in an AI-driven world? In the fellowship, we have a hands-on, peer-based experience that really walks our fellows through a process, what we call our methodology or curriculum, to create a concrete aspirational goal. We name it our Fellowship Moonshot, that builds workforce well-being to deliver operational imperatives while rigorously engaging with AI integration. In our work, we show that AI and workforce leadership doesn't have to feel, as it so often does, accelerated, isolating, scary, maybe those are resonant for you, but that it can become considered, collaborative, and inspiring, while still responding with the nimble pivots that a disruptive technology demands, seeking clarity even when full confidence about what's around the corner isn't possible. Because we're at about the 7th inning stretch of this morning plenary, I'm going to ask us to take a deep breath and bear with me in a brief show of hands poll of the audience. First of all, if you can hear my voice, raise your hand. Okay, great. Excellent. You're with me. Here's our poll question. If your experience of workforce and AI leadership had a theme song, what would it be? I'm not going to ask you to come up with one on the fly. I have 4 options for you. And what you can vote for all of them. If you are experiencing all of these theme songs in a montage of workforce well-being and AI leadership, that's great. But if you hear something that's resonant, raise your hand. You ready?
So first of all, is AI rocking your world? Maybe it's a seismic change, maybe it makes you feel fantastic, but who's being rocked by AI right now? Hey, just a few. What about surviving? Who is celebrating the fact that they are simply holding on and surviving as they move through what is happening with AI and workforce leadership? You're a survivor, maybe not yet, a workforce and AI thriver. All right, third up, we have Think by the Queen. Who wishes that people would just think? Engage a little more critical thinking in how they use AI. A lot of answers on this one. This one's resonant. Okay. Well, let's bring a little bit of that thoughtfulness to what we're engaging today. And last but not least, yes, that's right. Maybe you have AI planning your wardrobe, prepping your schedule, writing your emails, more, I don't know. But at this point, you just can't give it up. Only a few. Okay, more are coming. You're among friends. Thank you for indulging me in that.
Whatever your current AI and workforce theme song, we hope that you leave, having listened to the rest of today's conversation, feeling a bit more of a sense of how AI can become considered, collaborative, and inspiring. We're first going to hear from Ken Hales via recorded video.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here virtually. Truly wish I could be there in person and appreciate you for creating this space. When you look at the conversation around AI today, It often feels uncertain and at times unsettling. For many employees, it can even feel isolating. But I think we have an opportunity to ask a different question. What do we want that experience to feel like for our people? Because it doesn't have to feel that way. It could be collaborative, empowering, and even inspiring. That's where I've been focused. When I started my fellowship moonshot, I was anchored around financial wellness. It's tangible, it's deeply connected to how employees experience both work and life. But during the fellowship, I had a conversation with a leader in a completely different industry or role that shifted my perspective. What made that possible wasn't just the conversation, it was the environment. The fellowship created a curated space of trust and psychological safety where leaders could challenge each other openly and share what's really working and what isn't. This kind of cross-industry collaboration is rare. It gave me the space to step back and pivot my moonshot. I realized financial wellness is just one piece of a broader challenge employees are navigating. Complex, high-stakes decisions every day, particularly around investments. So the question evolved from how do we improve financial wellness to how do we help employees make better decisions in the moments that matter most. And now, very clearly, that's what I'm building. An AI-powered benefits guidance tool supporting employees through onboarding, open enrollment, and major life events. Something that meets people where they are, simplifies complexity, and gives them confidence in their decisions. Not just in replacing human connection, but strengthening it. And just as important as what we build is how we build it. This work is intentionally collaborative. We're partnering with business resource groups to create real-time feedback loops and bring employee perspectives into the process early. Because if this is going to work, it has to be built with employees, not just for them. What gave me conviction to move in this direction is trust. Trust built through shared learning, different perspectives, and honest dialogue. This has an opportunity to shift AI from something uncertain into something that feels like a responsibility and an opportunity. And in environments where these conversations are highly visible, the priority is to move thoughtfully and to stay grounded in the employee experience. Because the vision here is bigger than any one tool. I'm building a future where employees feel more confident, more supported, and more secure in their financial lives, where the organization becomes an anchor of support. And what makes AI possible beyond any one company is a world where people feel more connected, where financial security is more accessible, and where navigating life's more important decision becomes more human. So that's where I'm focused, building AI that doesn't just inform, but guides, that doesn't just scale, but supports. And AI moves from just a tool to something people trust. Thank you.
I really appreciate about Tim's experience how he highlights how collaborative that work can be, both finding collaborative peer community to inform the decisions made, but also thinking internally about how we can collaborate with employees to build something that really works for them. Okay, Jonathan, you're a leader at an education benefits platform. How can learning really inform our human-centered use of AI when it is at the same time really disrupting what skills and education even mean to the workplace? And how have you translated that internally and really encouraging leaders at Guild to, as you've put it, get their hands on the keyboard and get engaged? Why does that matter?
Thanks for asking. So let me tell a story and then let me come back to my moonshot, which very much ties to your question. So the story starts with this. 3 weeks ago, we launched this chatbot. You can see it. You all can't see it, but you can later. And I built that. And now I haven't written code since 1996 in Visual Basic. So I don't know if I built it or the AI built it. But it gave me an opportunity to do something that I hadn't done in a very long time. And so, is it my job now to be releasing chatbots in the wild? Is it your job to be releasing chatbots in the wild? Probably not. But it is your job to lead. And so bear with me because I think this says something about what we need to do to lead in this environment. All of us as senior executives, I think our superpower is intuition. We've been around a long time. We have experience in our industry. We can read a room. We can see the dynamics between different people. And when we do that, we can bring something to the conversation. But around AI, we just don't have that. None of us have that intuition. And even if you do have that intuition 3 months from now, that intuition's out of date. So how do you deal with that? I don't think it's with a committee. I don't think it's with asking, going to a lecture, listening to me. I think it's by actually getting your hands on the keyboard yourself. And at Guild, honestly, we feel like we need to be ahead of this because we're trying to help companies navigate this transition themselves and be able to upskill and reskill their employees. So we need to be one step ahead with our own internal processes around how we do this with our employees. So what do? We got 60 leaders of Guild, me and all of my exec team colleagues among them, in a room together, building AI agents for 3 hours. I built the whole thing I showed. And what came out of that was a total change in the amount of adoption that we saw in AI. So my friend Claude and I did an analysis a couple months later, and you might have met Claude, yeah. And it showed that we took the rates of usage up 40% in the group of people who were in that session versus control group of people who weren't in the session. And then we took that and said, okay, we have to start doing this externally as well. So we started doing this as the first step of our AI Academy programs that we're running with clients. So we actually start with an executive leadership session, engage people, film them, put that into the content, and then our AI Academies actually bring that out in cohort-based learning using your tools, just like we used our tools, to actually drive real business value in your enterprise. So my moonshot is to make Guild an AI native operating company so we can advance our offerings. And I think this is driving that moonshot.
Absolutely. I see the forward momentum already. And something that you've shared recently, I think on a LinkedIn post or perhaps on your Substack, like and subscribe, is that you really believe that responding in this moment by saying, oh, we're doing fine, nothing is really changing all that much, actually means that you're ignoring what's happening rather than being responsive to the current moment. How do you bring that point forward with some of those executive leadership teams of clients without it feeling really difficult?
Yeah. Well, first of all, don't lean into stability. That's a trap. This is not a time of stability. You need to lean into the change and into the discomfort. Second, do things in cohorts, do things together. With our clients, we had a large CPG company that had rolled out an internal GPT tool, really wasn't getting usage. And what it was like a glorified Google. And instead, what they did was actually put it in the flow of people's work. Hundreds of P&L owners that were doing negotiation every day. They used negotiation as the way to engage people with the AI and totally changed the trajectory of their usage. So lean into discomfort, get hands on the keyboard, and go.
I love it. Thank you, Jonathan. Sarah, over to you. You are a very long-term expert on this work and on integrating workforce well-being into movement forward by companies and leaders. What are a few key insights that you've heard from what Ken and Jonathan have shared or from your experience that you want this audience to take with them as we conclude the panel?
Thank you, Kelley Francis, and thanks for a little bit of dance this morning. Did people go out late last night? No, you are ready for workforce conversations. Excellent. We're ready too. So I love learning from Kelley Francis and Jonathan and Kenneth in the Corporate Impact Lab. And I think what I take from their work is they're not starting with AI tools. They're really starting with what does my company need to become? And then they're doing 3 things differently that are really hard. And the first thing they're doing is trying to break really prevalent mental models about AI in the workplace. So companies are spending a lot of money on AI, and conventional wisdom says if you're spending that much money, you've got to cut somewhere, workforce usually, right, to pay for it. But I think what they're doing is they're flipping the narrative and they're saying, what if we ask the question, what could we never deliver for our customers? What have we always wanted to deliver for our customers, for our workers, that we couldn't before, that we can do now? And that question really changes AI from a cost-cutting efficiency play into a growth engine. And that's incredibly important. And the very best leaders are asking that question, not the cost-cutting question. But you have to go even deeper into a harder mental model that we all need to break around organizational systems and what AI can fix and what it can't fix. So I'll give you an example. I worked with a retailer, more than 1,000 stores around the United States. They had 170 different tools for their store managers. Anybody here work in retail? If you have 170 tools, how many tools do you actually have? None, right? But HR had their tools, and merchandising, and finance, and loss prevention, and everybody had something they wanted those store managers to do. Now, if all of those siloed departments had just applied AI to their own tools, you would have had a much more efficient, maybe much faster agent of chaos for those store managers, right? Because the hard work was taking a step back and talking across departments, talking to stores and saying, what do store managers need to succeed? Looking at that system and then saying, how can AI bring that to life? And that's the hard work that I think companies don't want to do and that all of you have got to make them do. And we all have to ask the question, is AI a cover for not doing that incredibly hard organizational systems work, right? Does that resonate with anybody?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say you are all the ones who have to push this to make this work. And even if we are pushing those mental models, we have to do it in a different way. So we have to reconceptualize our processes. And I think you heard that a bit from this group. You can't reimagine a future behind your laptop in the regular rhythms of work. The very best leaders are creating space and time and depth in a world that is really set up for speed and that incentivizes speed. So the other thing we all have to do is we have to create different processes, and you are all really good at that. Finding the space and time, it's not a luxury, it's what we need to reimagine a different future. And even if we have the space and time, the last thing these great leaders are doing, and you heard this over and over again, is they're resetting who is at the table. We cannot do this without the voice of the workers who see the systems that are broken. We've got to bring workers into this. And that's something that I think Jonathan and Kenneth in the Corporate Impact Lab do incredibly well. So we have to reorient really sticky mental models. We have to reconceptualize the processes and the way we work to fix them. And we have to reset the table to make sure that workers are part of the solution. And I think that's how we get to a win-win workplace.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Kenneth. And thank all of you for listening into our conversation. We hope that you will be in conversation with us. We'd love to know what your personal AI and workforce leadership theme song is, and hope that you can walk away from this experience trusting that leadership at that intersection can be collaborative, considered, and inspiring, which is something that we aim to create and foster with the work that we do at Corporate Impact Lab. Please be in touch before you leave. Thank you so much.